Crafty Belle tutorials, applying decals to picture frames, acrylic sheets, and other smooth surfaces. Materials that are needed to apply your decal is, of course, your decal, an alcohol pad, a ruler or a measuring tape, of course your frame, tape, a gift card, credit card, or any kind of hard plastic, and scissors. First, let's go over measuring your frame. If you're going to use a picture frame or any kind of frame that has a frame around it, you want to make sure that you are measuring in between the frame, and you want to provide about at least an inch or two on the side, so that way your decal is not right up against the frame, because then it will look really, really odd, and it might be a little bit difficult to see or read. And you're going to also measure the height of your decal. So because my frame is a little bit smaller, this is a 5x7, I might not want to take a full inch off of each side. Maybe you want to take off maybe 3/4 of an inch on each side, maybe a 1/2 inch. It really depends on how you want your decal to look. But you want to make sure that you are taking some off to have that allowance, and making sure that your decal is not bouncing right up against the frames right here. So when you're ordering your decals, you want to make sure that you're providing the size that you need, right? So if this decal is a 5x7, you want to make sure that you're subtracting. So instead of ordering a 5x7 frame, because it's going to come exactly 5x7, you may want to order maybe 3 or 3.5 by 5 or 5.5. That way your decal does not bounce right up against the frame. The other way that we can measure our picture frames when we have a frameless frame is to measure from the one edge to the other edge, like so. In this particular case, you also want to make sure that you're subtracting about an inch on each side, maybe a little bit less depending on the size of your frame. For smaller frames, you might want to subtract a little bit less, a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch from each side of the width and from the height. We do offer a couple of designs where the decal does go straight to the edge. In those particular instances, we already know what it is. We'll understand that the decal that you're ordering is going to bounce right up at the end, so you want to make sure that you're ordering the exact size. So in this particular case, this is about 10 inches wide. You want to make sure that you order it at 10 inches wide. This frame is exactly 9 and a little bit over 3/4, so you might want to order maybe a little bit less than 9 3/4, maybe 1/8 of an inch less. That way it doesn't fall off or fold over to the sides, but you're not going to subtract that inch off of each side. You do want to subtract maybe an inch or so off of the height, but you want to make sure in those cases where we have the decals that go directly to or all the way to the edge, that you're not taking off too much, but you want to make sure that you're still taking off for the height as well. So today we're going to apply this decal to this frameless frame. There are several different ways that you can go ahead and apply your decal or measure and make sure that it is centered. So I'm just going to take these little clips off of it. I'm going to remove the back, because sometimes that stand, if we're pressing too hard on it, it can, depending on how old our glass is, or if you're on an uneven surface or whatever it is, we want to make sure that the glass does not break. So because this is obviously glass, we want to make sure that I'm going to leave this back here so that you're able to see a little bit better. One of the things you want to do maybe an hour or two before you're ready to put your decal onto your glass or onto your surface is to use an alcohol pad to clean your surface really, really well. Like I said before, this is going to help remove any sticky residue, any lint, any dirt that might cause your decal to bubble up behind, or might prevent your decal from sticking really well. So you want to make sure that you clean your glass about an hour or two, and that allows your glass to dry. I've already cleaned my glass, I've already prepped my surface, so we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. When you receive your decal, it may arrive on a blue or a white backing. It may also be a different color. You'll have this white film right here. This is your transfer tape, and this is the blue backing. So once you have an idea of where you're going to place your decal on your frame, there are so many different ways that you can center it. So for today, I'm just going to eyeball it as much as I can, doing it from the back. And because this design has a lot of little bit of curves and edges and stuff like that, it might not be super noticeable if it's a little bit off. But when you have decals that have sheriff sans type of fonts, you can use that as a way to measure it, make sure that it's straight. And you can use an expo marker to make sure you draw your lines. But if you're using a clear glass or a clear frame, you want to make sure that you're drawing any lines on the back and not placing the decal over any markings on if you were to draw it on the front, because once the decal is over that, you're not going to be able to erase it. So if you're going to use any lines or markings before you add your decal, make sure that you're doing it onto the back. If you're doing it or applying it onto a picture frame or a surface that you're not going to be able to see through, you just want to measure just a little bit above or a little bit below where you're going to actually place it, and making sure that you're not placing the decal directly over any kind of marker or expo marker type of drawings. That way you can go back and clean that. Alright, so let's go ahead and apply this decal. I'm just going to put it right there. The reason I have my little bit of tape is because I'm actually going to go ahead and put a little bit of tape after I set my decal where I want it to be. I'm going to put a little tape right here. And I'm going to put a little bit of tape right here. So we don't need very much tape. This just is going to help my decal from not moving around while I'm trying to get it stuck. Because once it's stuck, it is stuck. Once our decals are attached to your glass or to your frame, it is very, very difficult, and likely it will be ruined if you try to remove it and you try to replace it. So the purpose of your card is just to go ahead and go over your decal. That way it goes onto the clear transfer tape. I am just going to remove. See, there it goes. My decal is on the clear transfer tape. I'm going to peel back a little bit of my clear transfer tape, and I'm going to cut away at that blue backing. Just a little bit, not the whole thing. And there is more than one way that you can do this. This would probably be your safest bet to make sure that you have your decal where you want it, and that way your decal does not get messed up. So I'm going to smooth down my transfer tape, as you can see where I removed the clear backing. I'm just going to smooth out that area right there until it gets right all the way onto the glass from up here. Once I have that part down, I'm pretty confident that the rest of this decal is not going to shift or it's not going to move around while I remove the rest of the transfer tape and the blue backing. Just going to try to get rid of some of this tape right here. Alright, so I'm going to remove this in sections. So I'm not just going to rip the blue backing off of it, because I want to make sure that my decal gets right back down there and it doesn't bubble up. So we're just going to go down and go backwards on it smoothly. And we're going to use our plastic, and we're going to just move backwards as we go along. Alright, so I'm going to use my card again, press down really hard on there and make sure that my decal is going to adhere to the glass. Alright, sometimes when we're starting to remove our transfer tape, sometimes that decal might come up with that transfer tape. And if it does, if your decal does come up on there, you just want to go over that area a little bit again. This one's transferring really, really well, really, really easily. So we're not going to pull up like this. If you pull up like that, that might cause some bubbles in your design, and you want to make sure that you don't get any bubbles in there. So the best way to try to avoid bubbles is to just roll your transfer tape back onto the decal itself. So I'm not pulling it up, I'm not doing any of that, just going to roll it back onto the decal itself. And there you have it.